once being interviewed or being interviewed, did they know specifically what was being referred to by marital status?
The wording in the surveys was sexual intercourse. And there were phrases, so if the person seemed unclear, the interviewer tried to provide a definition. So I think so. In most other, LDS kids are more opposed to abortion, less interested in romance than is true nationally. But in terms of how they get along with their parents, how they feel their parents regulate their lives, how they get along with their siblings, in these surveys, we don't find very many differences between LDS kids and other kids. They are equally likely to say, my parents love me and support me.
I'm just curious, on the sex surveys, are you concerned about underreporting because of the moral stigma that might be more felt in the LDS community now?
Are we concerned about the moral stigma? Well, the interviewer shows up. They don't really know this interviewer from anyone else, and this is after a series of questions. They try to get interviewers that are pretty good at building rapport. So I'm guessing there wouldn't be much more of that for the LDS group nationally, but I don't know. So in most other ways, LDS kids experience family life a lot like other kids. Yeah.
What about unwed mothers and an adoption rate? Anything like that?
The numbers on adoption here are small anyway, and our LDS samples are small, so I can't get a reliable number on that. Sorry. So let's talk a little bit about adult married life. This shows marital status, much higher, well, not much higher, but clearly higher for the LDS population. Age of marriage is younger for the LDS population. I haven't really had the right numbers to calculate this, but a big trend nationally is to live together before you get married. And part of the reason age of marriage is going up is because people are living together. So the age at which you start a relationship, move in with a partner, hasn't changed a lot. Okay? So I suspect the age at which you start a partnership isn't that different for LDS people and other people. It's that LDS people do it with a marriage more often than is the case nationally. This is a kind of an interesting statistic to me. Remarriage rates. For people under age 50, remarriage rates are about the same for Mormons and people nationally. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Nationally, there's not a very big difference in remarriage rates for people under and over 50. For Mormons, people under 50 have a very high remarriage rate. People over 50, substantially lower. And I think that's due to the sex imbalance as you get to older ages. One report we did based on older data, and I'd like to see the numbers now, for every female over 30 single who's in church, let me say that other way, for every male single over age 30 in church on Sunday, there are 6 single females in church on Sunday, over age 30. A big difference there. So high emphasis on marriage, but at older ages the numbers work against you. Well, somebody asked about divorce rates. Here we use dissolution to refer to when you actually separate rather than when you get divorced. Now this is tricky. Early 1980s, some numbers showed that LDS divorce rates were lower. The surveys in the 80s that we had showed virtually no difference in the divorce rate. for Mormons and other people. Now these surveys that we've done from the 90s, 2 of them show no significant difference, but Mormon numbers still lower. And one survey shows the Mormons lower and statistically lower. It means the difference is significant. Now, the divorce rates have actually been declining slightly in this country since 1980. And the survey suggests that decline is greater for the LDS population than is true nationally. So I guess I'd have to say, guess, based on these numbers with the sampling issues we have, that LDS divorce is lower than the national average, but still fairly high. So if the LDS rate's at about 50% of couples will ever divorce, the Mormon rate might be around 40 to 45%.
Do you have any data on differences between temple marriages and non-temple marriages among LDS?
Differences between temple and non-temple. I get asked that question more than any other, I think. And then the national surveys don't ask about temple marriage, so it's hard to say. What we can look at instead is church attendance. So for couples where the husband and the wife both attend church regularly. By the way, it's true nationally, if both attend church, divorce rate's lower. If neither attend church, it's higher. And if one attends church and the other one doesn't, it's even higher. So having similarity helps some. So if we put together a series of guesses, husband and wife who both, LDS husband and wife who both attend church regularly, the lifetime divorce rate may be around 30%, 25 to 30%. So I would guess the temple divorce rate's in that range. It's pretty high, but it's still a lot lower than the national 50% rate.
Is the national still 50%?
Well, it's going down a little, but not too much. So around that. Somebody asked about birth rates. Mormons have more kids. Their ideal family size is about 1 child more, and they expect to have about 1 child more than is true nationally, depending on which survey. So yeah, higher fertility rates. What's the average Mormon family size? Well, if we based it on this expected or this ideal, it would be a little under 4 children per family for people in these surveys. But here's an interesting pattern I thought I'd put in here. Yeah.
I'm just wondering how converts to the church might affect that if they came in, maybe were older or something, or how does that play in?
How would converts affect that? I haven't checked here. The one I checked on was the premarital sex, because people say, well, it's all those converts that had a wild lifestyle, and then they repented and joined up, right? You know what? If we look in the one survey at what you were when you were age 14, the rate is even higher. The converts coming in, at least on sex, are more likely to let's say, be changed than the people who disaffiliate from the LDS Church. And I haven't looked, but I wouldn't be surprised if the same is true for children, that the people who convert are more pro-family, more pro-having kids. So I'm not sure that would make a big difference.
On the birth data, you had LDS versus national. Do you have anything in terms of Catholics or other churches versus national or versus us?
There's not a big difference between Catholics and Protestants anymore. Those with no religion, which is a fairly small percent, are lower. But Catholics and Protestants, it's not a major, it's not a difference anymore. except on abortion. But on birth control, family size, no meaningful difference.
How about evangelical